I want to do some real quick ones here for you. Bible geography also illustrates some of the key features that frame the events of the Bible. In fact, so many events of the Bible are understood if you know where the mountains are, the lakes are, the rivers, and the roads. For example, every time it says in the gospel, like in Matthew 14, it says, and they went across the lake. The Sea of Galilee, and let's see if I have a map here. Yeah. I love these old maps. I love old books. I have thousands of books, but my favorite ones are getting all falling apart. So one of my boys scanned in my favorite books so they don't get torn anymore. And I can blow them up and use them. But this is Bethsaida. That's the home of Peter and Andrew. You see, this is the Sea of Galilee shaped like a harp. It's about 6 miles wide and about, 6 to 9 miles wide and about 16 miles long. That's the Sea of Galilee. On the northeast corner is Bethsaida. Now right here, you can't see it, but I can, that's Capernaum. That's Christ's adopted hometown. He moved from Nazareth right here, went along the valley and walked the same way the buses go today, and walked to Capernaum and set up shop there. The third spot is right on this little mountain here, and it's called Chorazim. And that little triangle of those 3 cities, Bethsaida, Chorazim, and Capernaum, those 3 account for 60% of all Christ recorded miracles. Isn't that amazing? Right there in that little triangle. It's called in synoptic studies and in Bible studies, it's called the Golden Triangle, because Jesus says, woe unto thee, Capernaum, woe unto thee, Bethsaida, woe unto thee, Chorazim. If the miracles, 60% of them, that had been done inside of you had been done, and he names places, he says, they would have repented. And you saw it all, and you didn't. See, there's a danger to even coming to church on Sunday night, because we're responsible for everything we know. And the Lord said it's better not to know it than to know it and not to do it. To know it and not to act upon it. To know it and not respond in obedience. So, the Sea of Galilee is so critical for teaching the overexposure to truth that these people had. These people had Jesus Christ himself living among them. And Jesus says, you're going to be brought down to the pit. I lived with you, and you didn't believe in me. He said, you had Peter and Andrew living with you. Jesus called his disciples right here on the shore. In fact, another interesting event is right here below Capernaum, right on the shore there. You know what? We have way too much drawing on this map. Aren't you? Do you see why I like this thing? I can doodle all day long. Right here, just down from Capernaum, right there, is the best fishing on the whole Sea of Galilee. There are 7 springs that emanate from the floor of the Sea of Galilee, and they're something to do with volcanic activity. In fact, this is a volcano right there, the horns of Hattim. And so because of the proximity, there's this hot spring stuff. But because of that, this is a very nutrient-rich corner of the Sea of Galilee. And right there, if all else fails, you always could catch fish there. And so that was the favorite fishing hole. And it's interesting, when Jesus called Peter and Andrew and James and John, the 4 fishermen were right there. And Jesus called them, and they were fishing, and Jesus called them, and they threw down their nets and followed him. And they followed him for 3.5 years all over the place. And then finally, down south, 90 miles from where we are, or depending on if you drive or fly, 60-some miles if you fly, down there are the darkest hours of Peter of Bethsaida's life. He was down in Jerusalem, and he was standing by a fire, and a girl looked in the darkness of the night and said, are you one of his disciples? And he cussed and swore and said, are you kidding? And so 3 times he did that. So Peter got disconnected from the Lord, at least emotionally. And so Jesus, after the resurrection, told them that he would meet them in Galilee. This is Galilee. And this triangle is where almost all the activity was. So they hung here. But Jesus didn't show up. Remember, after the resurrection, he wasn't around. He just came and went. And so right here, they were fishing. We know that because the whole context of them fishing at night just offshore is exactly this setting. And also, they would have already known that. And so here they are fishing. And by the way, the feeding the 5,000 is right there, and the Sermon on the Mount is right there. I mean, it's a magnet. So much happened right there. So it's nighttime, and Peter's fishing. So Jesus called Peter when he was fishing, and in John 21, he shows up to see Peter when he's fishing. Secondly, when Jesus called Peter in Luke 5, he had this miraculous catch. If you remember, it tore the net. In John 21, they caught 153 fish, and it didn't tear the net. But when Peter, in the dark, realized it was the Lord and swam to shore, there was a fire in the darkness of coals. And you know what? It was at a fire of darkness with coals that he denied the Lord. And what's interesting and eerie for Peter is all the convergences. He was called here. He's meeting Jesus after he denied him here. He was called fishing. He's fishing. When he got called, the Lord broke the net by rerouting every fish in the sea to wipe out Peter's nets, and he did it again. And when Peter left here, he went down and denied the Lord at a fire of coals, and so Jesus reproduces that scene in the darkness right there, and that was the spot where he restored him. So what is so amazing about Bible geography is all of a sudden the Bible doesn't have any more truth in it. But the truth just becomes so much more gripping and real because they were real people in real places with real problems. And Jesus came to them right where they were and reminded them that just like the mountains surround Jerusalem, I'm never more than an arm length away from you. Whether you feel me, see me, even acknowledge me, I'm right there with you. So that's how biblical geography can impact us, and it's time to go. So let's all stand up and get the blood flowing. You've actually been sitting an extraordinary amount of time. And let me see what you missed while you're standing. Oh, we already saw that. We saw that. Oh, this is what you missed. This is where Jesus walked by. But we'll have to pick up there some other time because that city right there, let me see if there's a better picture of it. That city right there was there. That's the Decapolis, where Jesus ministered in the Decapolis. When people think of Jesus, they watch the Jesus movie. It's a bunch of farmers, with cows. Jesus was around places that had bathhouses and theaters and Roman legionnaires and chariots and libraries and symphonies. Unbelievable. The civilization that surrounded the time of Christ.